Okay, so I want to do a quick video here in between calls because this is something that keeps popping up as really an under-tapped feature inside of HubSpot, especially as they have rolled out the HubSpot credits and really implemented that type of billing across more of the account. So people know where HubSpot credits are used when it comes to things like the AI features and workflows, but buyer intent's another area that you can use this feature set in, and it's actually a really powerful tool that I feel like people just miss. So we're going to dive into this here. Basically, in the buyer intent tool, you have different tabs up top: overview, visitors, research, signals, which is new, and configuration, where you're actually setting up the whole buyer intent. And so in this video, I'm going to walk you through from the configuration step to real world use cases here and how you can actually build it into your portal. Obviously, this is stuff we do all the time for clients. When we're going into accounts, when we're doing our initial audits, we are looking for their buyer intent usage, because if you have the tracking code installed on your website, then you'll be able to see who is coming and doing research for your company or for your services. And so you can target your outbound a little bit better and really cater it to the organizations who are looking for your services or in market for your services. And so basically, the buyer intent tool, you can access it over here on the left-hand side by going to the marketing menu and then down to buyer intent here. And then I would just go straight into the configuration tab if you don't have it configured, so that you can make sure to get this basically set up how you need it for your organization. So you're just going to start top to bottom. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to manage your markets. And so when you click on that button, it's actually going to bring you to the markets section over here. If you're not opted into the beta, then just make sure to go to the betas and opt in to markets. But otherwise, you can go in here and then configure your new market. And so name this whatever you want. So let's say we want to go after private equity, for example, and we can add in that industry there. We can add in industries to exclude as well. And then we can start adding in different criteria here in terms of employee range, the country, web technologies, and stuff like that. So for us, I'm just going to put in HubSpot here. It's one of them. So we see 447 just as an example. 13 of these are in our CRM already. So we're going to click on create market. And so now we're going to have a private equity market. And so you can do up to 20 different markets right now, depending on what you're looking to segment by. And so you can make your markets very specific. If you work with law firms that are 11 to 50 people, and then you work with industrial companies that are only 1,000 and above, you can separate out those markets. And so once we have that set up, we're going to go back to the buyer intent configuration section over here. We'll be able to see exactly how many companies are in our specific markets here. And then what we can do is we can start adding specific intent criteria to work with. And so for us, for example, obviously we're a HubSpot firm. And so for us, there are specific things we want to exclude in terms of when people are going to our website, what we do want to include as intent and what we do want to include as an exclusion of intent. So obviously we don't want to have careers in there. We do want people who are specifically looking at our HubSpot pages to show up as intent. We have it really wide in terms of the net that we're casting. You can see here we have minimum number of visits as 1. The time period is last 30 days. The country is any. Now you can change this and make it so that it's only for specific countries, or you have a minimum number of visits or visitors and in a different time frame. So you can change that however you feel is necessary. And then you can add exclusions in here as well to combine with those inclusions. And so HubSpot would even provide recommendations here. You can take a look at those. And then over here, this is just a settings for the actual property label on the record itself. So if you wanted to put in a specific name, you could. Basically, it's just a Boolean field that gets checked to true when there is intent. So it makes it easier to filter on specific companies and run workflows and stuff like that when you have these intent criteria set up. The next section here is the research intent topics. So this is basically anything that people are searching for. You can see here for our example, we have all these keywords here for HubSpot and RevOps. So you can just change this to whatever intent topics are relevant for your business, the products and services that you sell. Next, we have automations. So here you can actually set up automations where you're auto adding these companies to the CRM. You can add them to a static segment as well. And you can see here we have different automation set up. This uses credits. So these specific automations, when you save a company and add them to your CRM, add them to a list, it's going to actually consume credits. But you can set up that automation by just doing a saved view and then automatically saving those companies. So I'll show you that in the actual intent tool here when we go to the visitors section. And then an important part here is the buyer intent credit limits. So you can see for us, net new company adding monthly. If for some reason you get a huge amount of net new companies, you don't want it to burn through all your credits. I think for us, we have like 5,000 or something like that. So we set a limit of 890. So I guess 89 net new companies in our CRM. And then for intent signal tracking, this is the amount of credits that we want to use for intent signal tracking, which we'll get into, and that's set at 100. Email digests you can add. I don't like them. I just go in here and check. When necessary, you can exclude specific companies, and then this is just a reminder for the tracking code. So once you have all of that set up, now you are ready to go into the other tabs. Let's go to the overview tab first, actually. So you can see here just like a quick dashboard of how many companies are showing research intent, how many are showing visitor intent, and then how many converted to customers here. So obviously there will be overlap between people who are already researching you compared to competitors and who's showing up here, but it's still good to know exactly how many people are in market at the time, how many are showing intent to your website, and then how many are interacting with you. So we could even change this goal stage here if we wanted to do something like prospects. You can see here we have 38 total companies converting to prospects for us, which is great. And then you can go down the line and see if anyone is converting further along. For us, we just have opportunity and a customer in that segment. Then you can also see the number of companies added in the last 30 days, in the last week, and this week. Just a quick breakdown of how many companies there are. And then you can also see here some popular automations and what that would have added in the last 30 days for you. So net new companies with research intent, toggle that on for fun. Add new companies, click save. And so now that'll just auto add companies with research intent for us. So that's the overview tab. The visitors tab is where we really start getting into the nitty gritty of how you can actually use this tool. So number one, there are custom filters here on the left-hand side for visitors and visitors intent. So we can show here maybe the last 30 days. We can toggle on and off that visitor intent that we just configured in the configuration tab. And so we can leave it on all visitor intent, or we can choose a specific one that we have configured. This is great. We're visiting our own website a lot. But you can see here some other companies that have been visiting our website, how many unique visitors that they have. And then if you click into the company, so let's say for cross-country mortgage, we click on this little eyeball activity icon, we can actually see where they're looking here. And so the specific URLs that they're looking in. So like HR Cloud, for example, you can see here, it's a discovery call link. So someone who's trying to book over and over again. For record here, let's see what they have. So a bunch of previews so that's probably bots crawling our website. Let's see here. Tech knowledge. So this person is viewing this blog page over and over again. So you can really see exactly what's happening here and start filtering by intent criteria. So one note, obviously you saw the bots there. There are bots that get into this view occasionally, but you can really start nailing down. Let's say we just wanted to look at the United States, for example. We can see the visitor intent from the United States. So I like to go in here and look every once in a while, both at the ones with visitor intent and without visitor intent. So if, for example, one of these catches my eyes, like this one is a target market, Scent Air. Looks like they're going to some of our tools here. So maybe they're a company we want to pursue. I can open them on LinkedIn. I can go and start looking at the people on their company and start actually doing an outbound campaign towards them. So you can get really into the weeds on this. You can filter by target markets, by segments, whether or not they're in your CRM, and by what life cycle stage. And so I just really recommend going in here and finding that motion that works for you. You can go and look at what they're visiting on your website. whether they're a fit for your company. Go to their LinkedIn page, use your other tools to import contacts, to do a highly targeted campaign and stuff like that. So I check this every once in a while. I make sure that we're not missing out on any potential prospects that we could be reaching out to. I like to just see exactly what they're looking at. So for example, this person's looking at our pricing, at our use cases, everything like that. So just go through, use the visitors. The next one is the research tab. And so this one is a little more broad because it's not people who are visiting your website per se, but it's just people who are searching for things that you already configured in your research topics. So you can keep it as any research topic. You can filter by the level of research. So we're going to do high here. And so now these are all the companies that are in my target market. They're a high research level on any of the intent word that I see here. So HubSpot, not relevant. Obviously, that's just employees researching our services as partners. But maybe something like this, Frost and Sullivan, they have a high HubSpot integration and low HubSpot onboarding research. Maybe this is something I want to explore. So maybe I want to view this company that was auto added here. I want to see if I have any contacts in there, which obviously I don't. But then maybe I can just do some research on their website and start getting into it. And so this is the manual way of doing things where I can add the intent signals. I can do the manual research. But the thing is, if you are automatically adding these companies to a segment, you're going to actually be able to automate your outreach to them, especially when you're using other integrations. So for example, let's say you want to do an automated outbound campaign that's maybe slightly targeted, where people who are researching your topic, you want to find contacts associated with them, generate relevant outreach based off of your products and services, their website, and the pain points that they might be facing based off of various AI research. Then you can do all that. You can have the company added to a segment. You can pull in the contacts with something like Apollo by finding contacts associated with the company or one of the other handfuls of tools. Something like Zoom Info would work too. Then you can enrich that data with Clay and do a bunch of research and crafting of messages. You can even use HubSpot's data agent for that as well. And then you can enroll them in a sequence inside of HubSpot or using an external tool to do that outreach to them to see if you can convert them into a response or a meeting. So you can do that whole thing using this buyer intent tool without having to do too much outside of HubSpot. So it's a pretty freaking sweet setup, if you ask me. It's unlocked a lot for us. And last but not least, you have signals here. So we just put in some as an example, but basically you can track signals that are being shown across these accounts. So this uses credits, but basically if anything happens like research here, or if a job ended and a job started, then you're going to be able to actually see that and you get notifications on it and then take action on those signals. So overall, that's pretty much the main use cases of buyer intent. You can set up those automated but targeted outreaches based off of visitor intent to your website or research intent for certain keywords. You can even set up some automated tracking for this new signals feature here. When companies start becoming a target account in your HubSpot profile, you can start tracking the signals with them. So a lot you can do here to create this closed loop. Start using buyer intent, some of the AI and tracking features inside of HubSpot to really grow that outbound motion and capitalize on everyone who's in market for you. So I know this was a pretty fast rip through of the buyer intent feature. If you want help setting this up and looking into how this can specifically be used for your HubSpot account and your go-to-market, then reach out to us. Go to our website, mergerdata.com. You can book a call on the website or submit a form to book a call, actually. That's how we're doing it now. Share a little bit about what you're looking to do, and then we'd be happy to map that out, see if it's going to be something that we can build or maybe you can build internally by yourself, and then go from there. So yeah, I'm Dan Saavedra from Merger Data. Appreciate you watching.